Yes, it's good to see you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Yes, it is. My name is Glen Chun, the host of Glen Chun YouTube channel, and this gameplay comes to you via Forza Motorsport 4 because I'm talking about Forza Motorsport 5. If you're wondering why you're watching a Honda Civic Type R from the last game, lap and track from the last game, i.e. the Nürburgring, the reason for that is I haven't got round to recording stuff from the Xbox One yet because I want to use up all my old gameplay first from my hard drive, and well, I had this lap intended for a hot hatch battle, but none of the laps were really, it wasn't that interesting a lap battle, so I decided not to do it. So instead you're just going to get to see this Honda Civic Type R lap this track right now because well, chiefly the reason for it is the fact that I just finished doing the hot hatch race, you know, not the series itself. I did the series a while ago, but now I'm going back and doing the extra races on top of the championship based on modern day hot hatches, and this is the car that I'm currently using, so I was like, that kind of works and ties into what I'm doing now in a kind of a respect. But so today's topic is about Forza Motorsport 5, and it's more, it's gonna be like a review, I guess, of my thoughts on Forza Motorsport 5. I've seen professional reviewers talking about this game, and they're saying things like, they're using phrases like, it's really hard to fault this game, or this is one of the best racing games ever, oh, this game may be short on content, but otherwise it's mostly fine, you know. I said that in a slightly American voice, I didn't mean to, but the point is, I don't agree, and that's a really sad thing, because okay, in some ways I like this game, but in some ways I don't. There's definite room for improvement on this game, and so the good news, graphics, I wouldn't have felt shortchanged if I'd had just a slightly uprated version that we have in this video here from Forza 4, but we don't have that. The graphics are stunning, they are visually, good god, it's just a stunning game to look at. It takes the graphic dial and turns it up to the cliche 11. You know what I mean? It's stunning to look at. It literally is quite breathtaking. Some of the views on the game are very, very good. I also like the reflection from the windscreen on the day, and the fact that the game now decides to have the sun in your eyes on every single track, so that it makes certain corners trickier because you get the sun in your eyes, is also in some ways it's unwelcome because I just like to be able to see the corners. But in other respects, it does make the game a lot more difficult to play, a lot more realistic to drive on. Other aspects where the game's good, the physics are improved. They are very much improved. You just get more handling nuances to the cars. There's a lot more bumps. There's a lot more physical effects coming on here. That's where I think the physics engine is significantly improved. The amount of effects that you get when driving, that's been ramped up. In this game, all the tracks felt like, well, desktops. They were really quite smooth tracks. Even this, the famed Nürburgring with many elevation changes, not really that bumpy. Unless if you go on the curves. I mean, when you watch this video, I'm not really having to contend with many bumps or anything. But on Forza 4, my god, there's bumps in the track. You can feel imperfections coming through, and visually as well as through the controller, which makes use of the new vibration settings to shape the controller. Like on high RP, when the engine's revving up, you can feel that vibration through the controller. When you're going over bumps and all that, it feels like you're coming through the controller. There are some problems with it. I think that there should still be some more progressive sliding. I feel like it's hard to put this into words, but the normal steering setting for Forza, the one in between unassisted and full simulation, I think that could use dulling physical effects a lot more. I still think that certain physical effects, I feel like that mode is for gamepads, and with gamepads, the problem you have is it's hard to achieve the same level of progressive turning that you need. And cars and lift-off oversteer in cars like the Aerial Atom is virtually impossible to manage, because you're on full lock too fast on normal steering. In simulation mode, I wouldn't give a damn. I'd think, oh Jesus, this is good. This is realistic. But it's a bit too much for the normal steering mode. You lose control of cars a bit too easily. Also, the bumps are on too many of the tracks. They're just too high and they just suck you off. And I don't really feel like, and I feel like they could use just a tiny bit less severe on that front. But for the most part, the car's the handling is realistic. So yeah, we've got great physics, we've got great sound, great graphics. In general, but there are problems, and so here we go. Here comes the bad news for Forza Motorsport 5 prospective buyers. The cars are not replicated very well. Even though they are painstakingly recreated cars, graphically and visually, of course, they are absolutely superb, absolutely fantastic. However, there are problems with how they're actually modelled, how they behave on the track. For instance, let me pick on the Lotus Exige, which has rapidly become one of my least favourite cars in the entire game. The Lotus Exige is just an absolute pig to handle. Why? It has a shitload of lift-off oversteer, and it's slow to respond initially. So you're often going into corners off the throttle because it doesn't dive into corners in the way. You hear road testers say things like, this car handles with a certain amount of responsiveness, and you'd get more handling responsiveness out of an Audi RS4 in that game. This one of the best handling sports cars on the planet is so difficult. It sometimes feels like you're turning on a 50p piece. It sort of darts and jinks, it's jinky, it's very difficult to make smooth progress in that car, which is the complete opposite of what it's like in real life. It's so difficult to find a line and stick to it in that Lotus Exige, which I find not to be true to real life. Then you have serious balancing issues with Ferrari. Basically, the Ferrari F12 is out-accelerated by the 458 Italia. So here we go, here's the picture. You've got a car with near enough 200 brake horsepower more than the other, and it's slower in a straight line. Huh? Where the hell did that happen? How can that be allowed to happen? Where's this 6 months recreating a car? I might have to put another lap in this because I'm about to start ranting. But where is the 6 months recreating the cars to make sure they're painstakingly accurate? And then you have the 458 Italia faster in a straight line than the F12, and the F12 handles better than the 458 Italia. That's the wrong fucking way round. Complete reverse of what it is in real life. And this is Ferrari. This Ferrari, to car fans, is like, it's hallowed ground. This is Ferrari. These people are the gods of motoring manufacturers. These people are sacred. This would be like putting Ric Flair in a wrestling game and his finishing move is the chokeslam and not the figure four leg lock. That's how big an error this is. This is vintage stuff. This is literally reading a statistic off a page and making sure that is correlated into the game accurately. And thinking of more statistical inaccuracies, there's one that's been going on since Forza Motorsport 3, which is really starting to piss me off now. The Ferrari California in every single Forza game since Forza 3 has been slower than the Aston DBS. Again, wrong way round. Just a complete wrong way round. I mean, the Aston Martin DBS, I think, is pretty realistically replicated in its handling dynamics, but it's too fast in a straight line in comparison to the Ferrari California. And when you read press stuff for Forza Motorsport, and they say things like, he says things like, I don't recreate physics or data. I just take a look at the car specifications and build that in the game. That's what I do. That's what Dan says. Dan says, oh, my team does not build physics engines. It just builds the car the way that the manufacturer says it's built in real life. Yeah, sure thing. How the hell can this happen then if you're building cars, if you're spending 6 months painstakingly doing details like stitching, like textures on a steering wheel, and yet you fuck up on the acceleration, the handling statistics? I mean, you've worked so hard on creating what I think is probably one of the best physics engines for games in quite some time, and you mess it up by having one of the best handling cars on the planet, i.e. the Lotus Exige, handle crap. It handles crap. It understeers initially and then oversteers like crazy. It's just shifting balances. And then you try and put on the throttle and it goes... It feels like it's got soft suspension from like a barge. It's crap. It's not good enough. I mean, there are probably other big problems. Oh yeah, the Hennessy Venom. That's one of the fastest accelerating cars on the planet with 1,200 brake horsepower. It is almost as fast as the Veyron Supersport. In fact, some say, because it's never really been officially tested, but it's rumoured to be possibly faster than the Veyron Supersport. So why the hell is the acceleration statistic on it 9.2? The Veyron's is 10, so why isn't the Hennessy's 10? The Hennessy accelerates as fast as the Veyron Supersport, pretty much. Maybe if it was 9.9, I could overlook that, but it's not. It's 9.2. Not fast enough, I'm afraid. That should be higher. There's all sorts of things in this game like that. For instance, the Honda NSX Rs. Are you telling me that over the course of 13 years, Honda managed to improve only 2 aspects of the car, which is a slightly more top speed, slightly better launch? No, that's not how it works. The handling got better. Practically, the Honda NSX-R from 2005 is probably one of the... I'm not going to say anything like that, but they improved so many aspects of that car over the 1993 version which Senna developed. Even though that was a Senna developed car, the 2005 version is an improvement upon it in more ways than just a bit more top speed and a bit more, a bit more urgency off the line. They improved on the handling, they improved on the brakes, so why are those two things the same rating? And why the hell are modern day Ferraris being outpaced by the F40? Cars like the F12 Berlinetta are not as fast in a straight line as the F40. Newsflash, real life, that's not the case. It's things like this. In Forza 4, there were always slight inaccuracies. There were a couple of them, like the California and the Aston DBS thing being the wrong way round. And I was able, but for the most part, most of the cars were, as far as I'm able to deduce, most of them were pretty accurate. Most of them felt roughly like they should do. But in Forza 5, it seems as though there are more inaccuracies creeping in. And I find that odd. I find that really peculiar, given the fact that there's only 200 cars in the game. Far less than there's ever been at any point in the Xbox 360, and we have more inaccuracies than ever. How is that happening? How is that happening? I don't understand. I mean, let me put it this way. Let's put Forza 4 to the back of our minds. Let's get I think it was about 500 to 600 cars on launch. Let's put that in the back of our minds. Let's pretend Forza 4 and Forza 3 never happened. Let's focus on Forza 2, because we've been told that the cutbacks in numbers of cars from Forza Motorsport 4, we've been told that's happened because you simply cannot replicate that many cars in that much detail in the amount of time they had to develop this game. Okay, that seems like a satisfactory explanation. They're telling us we're getting used to new techniques rendering the cars, we're getting used to coding for the Xbox One, and that's why we simply did not have enough time, because it's a new console. We haven't had enough time to refine our techniques. That's why the cutbacks had to be made. Okay, so let's take a look at Xbox One. I mean the Xbox One, not the Xbox One, the first Xbox, and look at Forza 1. And then let's take a look at Forza 2. So you had a new console. You had the Xbox One and then you had the Xbox 360. So the first game on the Xbox 360 had 300 cars on it, on launch, without DLC. 300 cars. And if I'm not mistaken, around 20 tracks. Locales, that is, not just variations of the same track. If I might be wrong on tracks, I can't remember, but I know it says over 300 cars on that case. And whenever they mention a specific number, you can almost be guaranteed that's pretty accurate. It doesn't mention a number on the Forza 5, on the back of Forza 5's case, because it's not a bragging point. On Forza 2, it was 300, and you look at that, that's a respectable number. So there you go, that's the first game on the Xbox 360. Turn 10 hasn't even been making Forza games that long, and they've managed to get 300 cars without DLC on the game. Forza 5, even with DLC, even with 6 months worth of DLC, is going to have 40 short of that. You know, how did that happen, precisely? This game doesn't lack in content in comparison to Forza 4, it lacks in content compared to Forza 2. So you've taken a step forward, but taken 3 steps back, content-wise. And I've said it before, I don't get that. That in my head, I'm thinking, hello, that's just lazy programming. That's just lazy people who are spending too much time twiddling around with their iPhones and going on coffee breaks rather than actually replicating cars properly and building content. Okay, I'm going to accept that Dan's explanation is true for a second, but if that's the case, then there's no excuse for these inaccuracies. If it takes you 6 months to build a car, then you should just get the stats right. If you're going to go with that explanation, it takes us 6 months to build one car, then I would like better statistical accuracy. I would like the cars to be a lot more realistic, and I would like them to be better balanced. I'm not sure if the imbalancing or the incorrectness has come from the addition of single-seater and open-wheel cars, i.e. we had to have more performance classes to fit the F1 car in, and we've only got 10 rating points to deal with. If that's the case, then just, you know, if you need to fit more a wider spectrum of performance across the same number of performance points, then don't have your slowest car rated 3, have it rated 1. So there you go, you've opened up 3 more of your performance points to fit in these new cars, but that's not what happened with Forza 5. They're fitting a broader spectrum of performance in the same spectrum of performance ratings. Does this make any sense to you? I'm going to have to think of a practical demonstration. Visualize this in your head. So in Forza 4, we had a Ford Focus ST I think it was Group C, and its rating point was, okay, I can't remember the actual number, so I'm going to just make one up as just an example. So let's just say the Focus ST 2013 had an acceleration point of 4.8, which it didn't, I think it's less than that, but 4.8 in Forza 4. And let's say that the fastest car in the game, the Peugeot 908 Le Mans car, its acceleration point was 10. So that is the rating. So you've got an idea in your head of how fast those two cars accelerate. The gap between those two cars in the game is 5.2. So the F1 car accelerates a little bit faster than the 908 in real life and in this game. So, you know, so the car rated 10 is faster than the car in the previous game that was rated 10. Are you with me still? Are you getting this? So basically 10 is worth more than it was in previous games. So how fast does the Focus ST accelerate in Forza 5? 4.4. So there you go, that's it. You've got a broader spectrum of performance, but you're not opening up the full performance spectrum ratings points of your car. So how do you get around this? How do you get around this balancing issue of we're bringing in faster cars, but we're using the same ratings points? It's a pretty easy thing to do, actually. forget ratings points. Stop giving cars ratings, or handling ratings of 5.2 or whatever. Get rid of it, chuck it away. And don't do that. Do what Gran Turismo does and just give you people a brake horsepower, a weight rating, stuff like that. Just chuck away the statistics, because it's imbalancing the game. Other problems. There is one very serious problem with Forza 5, which has become immediately apparent to anybody buying DLC. It also goes to the content on disc. So there are only 200 cars on disc, and people immediately, when they read that statistic, were like, hang on a minute, how the hell's that happened? I hope they're not just cutting cars from on launch to release later as DLC. And Dan Greenaway actually said, no, we are not holding back content to be released as DLC. This is just literally, we haven't got it ready yet. These are new cars which are being designed, which are not ready for launch. And people are like, oh good, I'll calm down now, that's settled my curiosity there. Come along some DLC packs, two so far. The LaFerrari car pack and the January IGN car pack. So, I'm going to go with this new one actually. Let's take a look at this current car pack. I'm going to look on the website to see the list of new cars on it. And let me get to the picture of overalls here. I think the Maserati birdcage, I can't remember if that was actually in Forza 4, but I think it was. So I'm going to class it as in this. Okay, so I'm looking at this car pack now, December IGN car pack. It's got 10 cars in it, and here's the list of cars which are new to the Forza franchise and were not in any Forza game, let alone Forza 4. Okay, so we have the Mercedes A45 AMG and the Caterham R500 Superlight. That's it. They are the only two cars in this 10 car pack which were not in Forza Motorsport 4. So, and now let me read off the names of those which were. You have the Maserati Tipo 61 birdcage from 1961. That was in Forza Motorsport 4. You then have the 1997 Ford Escort, the 1977 Ford Escort RS 1800. That was in Forza 4 as DLC as well, I might add. That car came out as DLC in Forza 4 and it's coming out again as DLC in Forza 5. You then have the Chevrolet Impala SS 409 from 1964. That was also in Forza 4. The Ferrari 575M Maranello from 2002. That was in Forza Motorsport 4. The Lamborghini Rebenton. That was in Forza 4. The Ferrari 250 California. That was in Forza 4, I believe it's DLC. The Nissan Fairlady Z 432 from 1969 was in Forza Motorsport 4. The Peugeot 205 T16 was also in Forza Motorsport 4. So, if you're not holding back content on launch to be released as DLC, then how is it that 8 out of 10 cars, that is 80% of the cars in this download, in this DLC pack, how is it that 80% of that content was in Forza Motorsport 4? You're saying you're not holding back content, yet the evidence is stacking up against you. Let's look at the LaFerrari car pack. I can't actually find the news report on that anymore because the news reports on Forza's website disappear. But out of all the cars on that car pack, the only one which I looked at which stuck out to me as being like, oh yeah, that's new, was the LaFerrari. I think 9 out of 10 cars on that car pack were in Forza Motorsport 4. So we've had 20, if my maths are correct, and I am correct about the LaFerrari car packs, I can't remember all the cars in them because most of them are pretty forgettable. So if you take a look at these two car packs, in total 20 new cars have been added to Forza Motorsport 5 since launch through DLC. 3 of them were not in Forza Motorsport 4. That's not good enough. That's just... If you're gonna say to your fans that you're not holding back content to be released as DLC, you might want to actually show some evidence of that and have cars like the Jaguar F-Type instead of the Nissan Fairlady Z. You might want to start putting in cars like the back mono, the Porsche 918 Spider, stuff like this. Oh yeah, and Porsche is another factor. Porsche, once again, not in the starting lineup. That could be a part of an EA clause. EA clause is that, I think, for Porsches to be featured in their games, that Porsches cannot be featured on launch in any other games. So there's still a chance that we're going to be charged a massive amount of money for a couple of Porsche cars to be released later on. And don't expect 30 like you got in Forza Motorsport 4. Why? Because this is Forza 5, where cutbacks are necessary, even though the evidence is suggesting that they probably aren't. I mean, my problem is, do I believe Dan Greenwald, a guy who I believe to have some genuine integrity in the gaming industry, do I believe him when he says stuff like, it takes us 6 months to recreate a car, and we just build the car in the game, and then you have inaccuracies in one manufacturer's lineup? Do I believe him when he says we're not holding back content, and then over 80% of the new cars added into this game are from previous Forza games? I mean, I've always been against DLC because I always knew this was going to happen. I always knew, it deep down in my soul, when DLC first appeared, that it's going to end up being a case for fairs where stuff isn't going to be on the original disc, which could have been. And this is a perfect case in point. Forza can protest all they want. All they want. They can protest for the next 10 million years. We're not holding back content, but the evidence is just stacked against you. That is literally what's happening here. Is literally Forza Motorsport are in court protesting. We did not murder this man. However, there is video camera evidence from 10 different cameras with them holding a knife and repeatedly stabbing somebody in the chest. That's the evidence. The evidence is we have you filmed on 10 different cameras stabbing the guy, and the only evidence to the contrary is your word. That's what we have here, and I'm sorry, but I don't buy it. I love Forza, and I love Turn 10, I love their games, but I don't buy it. I want them to sort this out, because as a fan of the franchise, I feel shortchanged. I don't normally get like that. I don't normally feel like a brand defines me, or like a brand owes me anything in particular, like at all really. But I do think that the quality of Forza Motorsport 5 has definitely been hindered by this practice. It's not as good as a game as it could have been. I genuinely feel like that. This game could have been better if they just put some more effort in and got an extra 100 cars there on launch, rather than save them as DLC and then release new cars into the franchise in Forza 6. Which, don't get me wrong, I have a feeling you're not going to see cars like the back mono, or the Jaguar F-Type, or the Ferrari 458 Speciale, or any other cars like this, or the new Corvette. I don't think you're going to see them as DLC in Forza 5. I hope to fucking hell I'm wrong, but I do not think you're going to see those released as DLC in Forza 5. Because I think they are going to be saved up and released in Forza 6. Because if you take a look at the DLC, if you take a look at the new cars, which are new to the Forza franchise in this DLC pack. Let me take a look at them again. Which ones are they? The Mercedes A45, that was released last year. So that's not particular. That's not like brand new. That's not like a brand new car. That was probably okay. That's probably just on the limit. But that car could have been done by the first DLC pack. That could have been part of the LaFerrari car pack. The Cajun R500, it says 2013 in the title, yet I know for a fact that appeared on the Top Gear 3 years ago. That appeared on Top Gear before the launch of Forza 4, I believe. I think it was 2009 that was made, and that's why I do not believe we're going to see any brand new cars released as DLC. Apart from the LaFerrari, which that was announced a couple of months ago, but it's pretty new, I guess. And that's a problem to me. That bothers me. That really bothers me. But hey, yeah. I had another thought in my head just now, but I cannot. It's not materialised. It's disappeared. I had a point to make after that about something. Oh yeah, that was it. Apparently, also as a part of this car, apparently people have said something about the lack of the Nürburgring in Forza 5, and apparently that's going to be released as DLC. So there you go. Again, is that a new track? Is that like is that new to the Forza franchise? Is that like bringing in Donington Park? Is that like all of a sudden adding Monaco to Forza? No, you're basically adding a track which was in Forza 4. I'm just looking at all this DLC. It's all old hat. It's all old stuff. So people who review this game and say that Forza 5 is a game which is hard to fault, I'm sorry. It is really, really easy to fault. Oh, my other points come back now. I think this game was rushed. That's how it feels to me. There are a couple of indicators here and there. A couple of glitches with the sound. I've noticed on my particular console, when I've been playing the game, every so often I hear like a pop from the audio. It just sort of goes blank and it spits a bit and then comes back. And I don't think that's got anything to do with the car sounds either, because when you're in a car that back pops like the Aerial Atom, I know what that sounds like. And this thing didn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like a back pop from the exhaust at all. So I think there's some sound glitches in the game, not regular ones. That said, there's also this handling engine. Whilst it feels good and it replicates more effects than any other Forza game, they're not all perfectly executed. They're not all smoothened off. The other Forza games have felt optimized for the gamepads or the controllers, depending on what you want to call your controller. They feel better optimized for controllers than this game does. This game doesn't quite suit controllers as well as I thought it was going to, which has always been a trait of Forza, really. This game, in a way, handling-wise, feels a kind of like the first Need for Speed Shift. Not really criticism, but it's not as good as it could be. It's really not as good as I came to expect from Forza. You've got, like I say, these inaccuracies coming up, which I think that if this game had a full, I think that if this game wasn't hurried, I don't think we'd see as many of these inaccuracies in car versus car battles. Yeah, there are just too many inaccuracies there. And I think that's evidence that perhaps the game was a bit rushed. There's also the fact that the sounds, the engine sounds, for the most part, it's vintage Forza and they sound authentic and realistic. However, there's just a couple of things. The cars don't sound quite as realistic as they have done in previous games. The transition of the Ferrari 458 sound in particular is one that I can pick on, as it doesn't sound quite as distinctly 458 as the 458 sound from Forza 4. Same thing with the M5. It doesn't quite sound meaty enough. There's not enough V8 sound, too much turbo noise in that. That said, there really aren't that many problems sound-wise, but couple of things there. There's the lack of content, which would suggest stuff. There should have been more there, but it wasn't finished. Yeah, there are problems. There are, you know, when you look at beyond the surface, it does feel like a game that was rushed. I feel like this game, yes, I was clamouring for it, but the point is, I would much rather, and this is a criticism, in fact, of practically every game since Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that, you know, this is a criticism of games in general which basically get released every 2 years. 2 years is not enough to make a properly good game. It really isn't, and not for this generation, not with the graphical power, not with the innovation that you can do with these next generations. 2 years is not enough. And plus, Forza, the Turn 10 team has been faffing around with Forza Horizon, which was a failure. It was a fun little game, but it's just a distraction. It wasn't worth their time. I have a feeling the quality of Forza 5 has suffered as a result of it being rushed to coincide with the launch of the Xbox One, which, considering the fact that it needed a day one update, itself feels rushed to coincide with the launch of the PlayStation 4. So it feels like it's been rushed for the launch of a rushed console. It feels like time which should have been devoted getting this game ready was spent on Forza Horizon, which was quite good, but again, I would much rather have had a better game out of Forza 5 than I would have had, you know, because Forza Horizon wasn't. I'd rather not have had Forza Horizon and had a better Forza 5 than what we do have. The whole thing just feels a little bit rushed, and I think for the next game, Forza 6, Turn 10 have to sit down and not release it in 2 years' time. If come 2016, Forza Motorsport 6 gets announced, or at the end of this year, if at the end of this year we see a trailer for Forza Horizon 2, bad approach. This is a criticism on all game developers who do this. Games cannot be mass-produced things. You're never going to get the same quality out of them. Forza 5 has started to show signs of that, I think. This was a game which was developed in 2 years. Wasn't enough time. This game, I think, could have done with an extra 1.5 years of development time to get the content up to scratch, to get the balancing right, to optimize the game for controllers, and generally things of that ilk. And plus, I feel like the graphics, whilst yes, they are definitely a lot better, I feel like they could have been better still. So, yeah. This video's gone on way too long, but my point is, the ultimate point of the video is this. If you are reading or watching IGN reviews of Forza 5 and thinking, oh yeah, okay, so it's that good, I can forgive the lack of content, it's not that good. Trust me, when you buy this, you're gonna get a game which feels rushed. One last point, I guess, before I can end this thing, because I haven't talked about it. The Drivatar. Fantastic idea. No real AI. It's based off of taking content and taking data from how you drive in the game, putting it in the cloud, creating a virtual you, and then replicating it in the game for other people to race against in single player. Whilst in principle that's a nice idea, there is one small problem. It appears as though most people when racing decide to crash people out of the way. They go for ridiculously late brakes and use the car in front of them as their brake rather than their actual brakes. As a result, the Drivatars, you spend most of your time trying not to crash into them, ultimately to have them just pile drive into the side of you anyway. Basically, all the Drivatar has achieved is just mass carnage. Feels like a demolition derby rather than an actual race. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's a new system though, so I can accept that there'll be teething problems. Overall, it's not that big a problem really. It's just something that I think it's just something that yeah, it's not quite ideal. And there was one last thing, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, in the career mode, whether you like it or not, you have to race tuned cars. And I'm sorry, but I don't like to race in tuned cars. When somebody says in a press release, oh, we spent 6 months painstakingly recreating a car, I want to drive that painstakingly recreated car. I don't want to just go and ruin all of that developer's good work by just upgrading everything just so I can be competitive. Don't like that at all. I would rather I would like an option, and it's been absent since Forza 3. I would like an option to have the cars I compete against be standard with no upgrades. I would appreciate that. I mean, I don't mind having tuned cars in the career mode. I would just like an option to turn them off so I don't feel forced to race tuned cars. And that's nitpicking, but it'd be nice to have that option. It's another, again, evidence that the game was rushed. I'm going to have to shut up now. I've said enough about Forza 5. Suffice to say, it's good, but it's definitely not as good as it could have been. And that itself means it's not good enough.
India. Echo,